Hey everybody, it's Big Chonis here. How's everybody doing today? It's August 15th, 2019, Thursday. Let's take a look at some Bitcoin price action because very interesting here. Once again, dipping below $10,000, coming back above $10,000. Where is this market headed? This is the third time, July 17th, July 28th, and now August 15th, where, the mid $9,000 area in price action is tested. And it's tested, and every time we keep testing it, we do have a good bounce, right? We do have a good bounce in our price action. But what's happening now is that for a third time, we're expecting the market to say, okay, well, we bounced once here, we bounced twice here. We are still holding a higher low. Remember, we went as low as 9,000 under 9,100. We went right a little bit above 9,100 when we hit our second area of support. And this is today's current daily candle right here. We still have about 7 more hours left to go to close out this guy. And looking like a very nice looking potential to form, a bullish bottoming hammer here. We basically, after several consecutive days of this cascading bearishness, we have a very long lower wick here. And looks like we're going to put in a higher profile than yesterday's dump combined with several, well, pretty much every day through August here because we still have several hours left to form out the volume here. So ideally, we'd love to see this close as a good looking hammer. Now, the best looking hammer would be a close above 10,200, which so far is the high of the day. That would make the shape of this candle look very intriguing. Potentially something like this, if we could get that, or basically a spinning top here on the doji. But for that to happen, we really not kind of form that because um, we basically just went so low here, finding the support $9,400. Why is it hit $9,400? Well, there's a couple things here. We can start with the MA 100. Now, I did put a tweet out. Oh, and that reminds me. Remember to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy my content. Remember to hit a follow on YouTube, and of course, remember to follow me on Twitter. I am at Big Chonis. Look at the MA 100 here back in March. We were able to get resistance on it, break above it, find it as support, test it multiple times, and once we had this bullish engulf on March 5th, off of the test and bounce again of the MA 100, off to the races we were. We had all of our bullish crosses here in April, and we have been floating above the blue MA 100 ever since then. So this is our first test of it, and we dropped a couple $100 under it here, but still very strong hold in the area of this support of the moving average that had been respected by Bitcoin back in March. So first touch after March, April, May, June, July, August, 5 months. Okay, I can understand why the MA 100 would offer that support. MA 200 is still way down here at $7,000. We also see the MA50 was resistance, turned back to support, turned back to resistance, turned back to support, and now it's clearly resistance here. Now, for any kind of a bear cross we would have of the 50 of the 100 here, we still have weeks to play that out potentially. If we keep drifting lower here, these will get closer, and that would be our first flirting with any kind of a bearish cross on these MAs. Since they bull cross way back here in March. So March's bull cross of the 50 above the 100, and then the continuation here of both of these indicators above the 200 preceded the continuation here of our bull market, and now these areas, these levels are being tested. How many times are we going to hit $10,000, break below, come back above, get weaker bounces before 10K isn't going to be an area that we're going to see Bitcoin trading over. We've tested this so many times, and now the market's thinking, well, maybe if I wait it out, I can buy cheaper Bitcoin. I can buy Bitcoin in the 9Ks again, or potentially lower. We talk about how much bullish veracity velocity too. Bitcoin had its parabolic move here, blasting through February and basically extending its parabola, which we adjusted every once in a while when we basically had the break of it with the continuation. But this was really the area where we broke it, we came back above, and we kept getting resisted to it. And now that we've spread so far here, the original parabola, I mean, we got to basically extend this to a much more uh, wider and less parabolic move here. Now, this can still quantify something that is obvious that we, even though we're basically flirting with 10K, we are still up 300% from our lows. Okay, we are still in a tremendous uptrend here. The moving averages show that. Okay, the Bollinger Band trickle up continues to show that. But as we're seeing now, what's different between this trend is the amount of time we're drifting sideways and the continued rejections on the lower highs we keep getting. Now, middle Bollinger was acted as a little bit of support a couple days ago because we broke it and closed below it. Lower Bollinger support is definitely something that is on the table here. That's at right around 9K, and that would basically be a double test of our original very nice bounce area of the $9,000 area. Whenever we fail to hold middle Bollinger support, the lower BB is put in play. Thusly, when we fail to, or when we're able to break resistance and turn the middle BB into support, we then target our upper Bollinger. And this was a good trade that could have been played out just based on the Bollingers. Once the middle BB broke, and especially once we had our daily close below, targeting our lower Bollinger became more prevalent. I do want to, because I have the Bollingers up, just go to a quick weekly here. Okay, middle BB on the weekly is $8,600. I did put a tweet out about that yesterday, talking about I expect it to be tested. I expect it to be tested, and that's at $8,500, and that would definitely close our CME gap. That would definitely retest this area, which was tested and held as very strong support, and then advancement on the last push we had through the end of June. And then the monthly Bollingers, I mean, look at this monthly triple rejection here. And whenever I see a break of the upper BB and then a follow-up break with a lower high and then a follow-up break with a lower high, the Bollinger Band on the upper Bollinger was the actual dollar resistance at 12.3 a couple days ago, but Bitcoin's bearishness has actually brought in and brought down that upper Bollinger. The monthly Bollingers are incredibly wide still. They are a little less wide than the peak of Bitcoin 20K in 2017, but they are still tremendously wide, and I can expect them to close up over the coming months. And if that's the case, then we're going to be drifting more towards the middle range of the Bollinger spectrum. And middle Bollinger right now is at 7K. I also made note a couple days ago on Twitter about this is the first time where the middle Bollinger, which has been in an uptrend all this time, is now finding a negative move here. We've never seen the middle Bollinger since 2016 have any kind of a negative shape to it on the monthly chart, and we do right now. Now we still are halfway through the month. This can definitely change up. We can find some buying momentum here. Ideally, it will be a close above last month's open, which would be above 10.7. That would still keep the overall flagging formation on this higher time frame in check. But just looking at this as a whole, look how far and how quickly Bitcoin advanced here. This still has the same parabolic shape to it as this does. And we know what happened when this happened here. We also remember our capitulation candle that we had back in February of 2018 that started the month of Bitcoin at 10.3, got as high as 11.7, and then from 11.7 the thing literally went down to 6K. We haven't had that yet, and now we're into the third month after our top off, that capitulation candle also happened in the third month, after that top off. Actually, I think we went down and then we came back up and then we actually closed here. So this was after the capitulation, I believe. Um, but needless to say, we're basically in the third month. Just as the last time we had this third month, we did have this capitulation candle. Now, obviously, as you can see, we have tremendous upper wicks here, 3 months in a row. We only really had that at this stage for the 2 months, and then we had, so the volatility was still so there because of all the kinetic energy that the market was able to put into itself over this parabolic move. Then those upper wicks and lower wicks started to tighten as a lot of that energy tightened, and we basically got smaller monthly candles after the fourth month. The fifth one was smaller, 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 and we basically tightened up until we had our final dump here. So we're very tight in our candle body halfway through the month. Let's go back to our daily chart. I've got a couple other indicators. Note we are below 10K one more time. Now I always talk about my EMAs, EMA 12, EMA 26. Okay, now these are flirting with a bear cross again. I'd like to see a rejection. I'd like to see something where this ricochets right off a candle, and this kind of ricochets, and they both kind of keep moving, holding the bull, um, the bull cross that we had back here on August 4th. Um, but we're getting very close here, and we're about a day away from actually testing to see if they'll cross. And I put a tweet out about the fact that once we lost both of these EMAs as daily support and closed this daily candle below, it was a very ominous sign about what was to come because of the acceleration we had gained above them, testing the EMA 12 3 days in a row as support, and then losing both our EMAs the day after. Oof, don't like to see that. Um, so we're looking to see if we can get that ricochet there. I do want to talk about a few more things on the daily, and then we'll check out some lower time frames. The TD sequence here, we are on a red 6 on the daily. Listen, this 9 here was a accurate top. We also had this hanging man. So not just a 9, but the fact that the shape of the candle, I can zoom in a little better here, is a hanging man candle. This is a very bearish candle here. When you see that, even with the long lower wick, this formation basically means there were no more buyers. Even though we got all the way bought up here, there were no more buyers left to go above. And the follow-up candle and the shape of this basically showed we were losing steam and we were running out of momentum there. Um, let's see here, higher time frames real quick here. Still early in a bearish count on the 3-day. And we've done a price flip here on the weekly as well. So that is notable. Monthly, though, we're still in a bull count. We're on a 6, but we have a lot of running room here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can close a 6 above 52, but next month above 8,500, we'd have to close to keep next month to close as a green 7. So higher time frames are starting to get a little wobbly. They were very bullish, and now they're getting very bearish. I mentioned the EMA 12 and 26 here on the daily, but on the weekly, for a fourth time here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are testing to see how strong EMA 12 support really is. And, 4 times a test, I'm not sure if it's going to hold. And then if it breaks, especially with a weekly close below 98.18 right now, I would be targeting my EMA 26, which is down in the mid to $8,300 range. So still mid-cycle here on our TDs. Let's start looking at some lower time frames and see if anything stands out in our DeMark indicators here. I'm kind of keep my EMAs up as well. We can see where we're candles into our bear cross here. We are on a 6. And listen, this was a very good hammer here on the 12-hour chart. This is a good hammer candle, long lower wick. I seem to have lost my volume. Favorites, volume. There we go. Very high volume here. So this was a good basically reversal candle. But we're halfway through this current 12-hour here. We're not seeing much momentum. Always keep note of how low we are when we have a bear cross, the initial bear cross, how low we get from our EMAs. If we get too low, that's an oversold signal there. But right now, this follow-up 12-hour is not very convincing on low volume, even with the shape of the last 12-hour candle there. 6-hour, again, this was a very good way to close up the last 12 hours, 6-hour candle here. And we did have a 9 on the 6-hour with a bleeding follow through here. Bullish engulfing on the last 6-hour. We need to basically hold this. See how we fell halfway down this candle here. So we were able to get right at the 55 there. So basically we were able to get halfway down, test that and bounce, which makes 98.70 a very clean area of support. And if it breaks, then this would begin to really negate how good looking this 6-hour candle was, and the 12-hour candle was there as well. Lastly, 4-hour, still mid count there, nothing really standing out on TIs, on the TDs. We are starting to spread here in our moving averages, and also note the width, the distance, how far apart our MAs here on the bullish side. We tend to get an equal equivalent spacing on the bearish side. And as you can see, we were probably a lot wider when we were down to this candle here at the lows of it, and kind of came back. So the spread and the distance of our moving averages, here, let's make it a little easier to see, is apparent. We see very similar peak to very similar trough, the distance between the two MAs here, EMAs, the peak versus the follow-up trough. So we kind of see these parallels in terms of spread. So this was our bullish spread, and now we're almost equivalent here to our bearishness heights here. That's why we're basically finding that little relief we're finding in our price action for the moment as we're hovering around 10K. Do a couple more indicators here, guys. Go back to our daily. This was the daily, but I remember I had a 12-hour on this. Yeah, so the OBV is still bullish on the 12-hour until this support breaks. This still has the appearance of an ascending triangle, and I was looking to find support near this line, and look, we kind of did. This is a decent bounce here, kind of preceded this line here, and this can be a good consolidation for the bulls to keep this an ascending triangle, which would basically you'd want to see that breakout and advancement higher. So not that bad looking there in the 12-hour. The daily, though, is looking more like it's still kind of holding its flag pattern here, right? We're still kind of holding our flag. And if that's the case, we've basically broken middle flag support. And in that case, though, targeting another bounce, hopefully in this lower area, would be key. For now, though, I want to just get above this middle resistance channel here. So we're kind of in this neutral zone here of our daily on balance volume because we're above our zero line, but still or below our midline, and have a long way to fall if we want to keep our overall flag support intact. The daily RSI, this is our lower low here. High, lower high, just barely, lower high, just barely, much lower high, much lower high. Okay, it's bearish. Lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low. We're finding this triple support-ish, right there. But overall, we're below 50, and we're below 50 on the daily RSI. The bears have the control. We're drifting, people. We are drifting lower, and for now, this is continuing to drift us lower in this realm, okay, with our lower highs that are accelerating. We're basically accelerating our dip here, and we're accelerating our bearish dip as well in context, both leading to a test of 30 and then potentially dropping lower. Now remember, when we drop way down here, this was a very good buying opportunity, and our RSI bottoming. Actually, this was our RSI bottoming. This was our price bottoming, right? Here was the low. Yeah, so really it was the higher. Yeah, so it was the RSI bullish divergence with the higher low and the lower low in the price action. Sorry, the RSI had a higher high, the price action had a lower low. So it's showing that the RSI was basically charging up there and stronger than what the price action was suggesting there. So even though we have a low in our RSI, does not mark that we have a low in our price action. You actually want to see the RSI begin to build while the price action is falling, showing the strength is increasing even though the price action isn't. Stochastic here, closing in on that bottoming, still running room to fall bearishly here, okay? And our MACD has been, this is a trailing indicator here. So we have to remember we make choices on our MACD based on the spread and the curve. Spread and the curve. Spread and the curve. And then our histogram, when it rolls over, not when it gets to our zero line, but when it rolls over. Okay, this is a trailing indicator, but every time we get these upper humps followed by the kind of change of the guard here, pretty soon we know we're going back to our zero line and testing it. And right now we're in the negative, and we're just kind of starting this here. Here's our bear cross. Okay, so we're still above the zero line with our indicators. That is good. That basically shows we've been in this bullishness sense since February. Okay, we did have this break here and got above. So maintaining our zero line support on the daily MACD will continue to be important. And if you're wondering why I use the EMA 1226, a lot of it has to do with the correlation of the MACD as well as just my own personal preference. But I'm used to those EMAs and how they dance with each other. So just to wrap everything up, Bitcoin for a third time is testing 9K. Okay, now this can definitely still be in some sort of a pennant, if you want to call it that, very elongated pennant, where we have maybe we break the wicks, right? Little FOMO wick here, bull trap, little FOMO wick here, bear trap, bear trap. Okay, we have history with that. We are still holding this overall pennant just because we have so much running room on the bearish side because of how quickly we rose on the bullish side. So maintaining 9K is paramount, but getting a little lower, filling the potentially the gap there on the futures here. We have a new 4-hour gap above price action, gap here up to 11.8. And of course, we have our gap here on the bearish price action down to 8.5. And those are all the open 4-hour 4-hour gaps. And the 4-hour gap is, for me, the most important one. If it's on the 4-hour, it's on the daily as well. And some are on the weekly. The reason the 4-hour is so meaningful is because of this gap right here on the 4-hour at 13.8, which was formed back here in January of 2018. And I say all gaps get filled eventually. It did take this gap here quite a while, basically over a year to get filled. But the fact that Bitcoin's top off was at 13.8 and this 4-hour gap, let's see if I can zoom in here so you can really see it, was at 14.8. I don't see as coincidence, but as notable. And there it is, that little skip in the beat there, little skip in the beat, gap up to 13,869. And where did it fill? Come on. Oh, I'm there. No, I'm not. Where did it fill? It filled all the way at 13.8 on the dot. And that continues to be in the chart our local high and our local top. Now we got a little bit above it on the CME because this trades at a premium, or had been trading at a premium, bullishly. But I do find that that fill very notable. So that's good news for the bulls in the sense that yes, there's an open gap above current price action. Okay, there's a reason for the price action to get to 11.8 at some point. But we've had this gap open here much longer. We're into our second month of having it open. And at this point in the price action, I see this gap being filled quicker than this gap. Um, and there are probably a lot of buyers in the market looking for some sort of a break of this double support to scoop up some Bitcoin there. Um, Bitcoin dominance. Let's go to the daily here. I said I'm not interested in alts until this support line breaks. It hasn't broken yet. Still there, still holding Bitcoin at around 69. It's been hovering around 69 for weeks, it seems. Um, and even if this drops a little bit, doesn't necessarily mean it's bullish for alts. They could just be falling at a faster pace. So if Bitcoin drops a lot, I'm not very convinced we're going to see a flush of money to alts. I almost see almost an acceleration. But because alts are so beaten down right now, their continued decline may slow if Bitcoin continues to fall, which may drive the Bitcoin dominance lower, but not necessarily be a bullish sign for alts, save a couple here and there. So I think that's a good 26 minutes of Bitcoin talk there. Not really liking this daily as it's playing out. Still several hours to go. Ideal close today would be above 10.2, which would make this a very good looking bottom hammer. And then we can definitely look for a narrative where we can keep climbing higher. RSI is shitty. OBV is better, but still not looking too good. And all the other indicators are still angling like they want to go lower. So until we get some more meaningful other news in the market, last thing I want to say about the correlation between Bitcoin, crypto, and the overall stock market here, I think we are actually seeing a risk-off event where if the stock market continues to fall or at least show signs of weakening, I don't see Bitcoin as a safe haven or as an alternative for alpha at this moment here. Maybe gold is going to be a little more of that hedge, and we've seen gold spot prices very strong. But for now, I'm not seeing Bitcoin correlated as a safe haven if the stock market is coming to continue to decline. People need to pay their bills regardless, and if they're losing money in the stock market, and they're losing money in Bitcoin, they have to do that. And a lot of the pump in Bitcoin's price action, we've seen the deflation in altcoin valuations. As Bitcoin valuation rises, dominance rises, altcoins fall. So money has been flowing over the past several months from alts to Bitcoin. And are we now seeing that money flow from Bitcoin back to fiat, basically, or Tether, to basically make that a little more stable? We still have so many things up in the air with the New York AG and Tether, all the ICO lawsuits. So there's a lot of FUD out there in the overall market. But overall, financial instabilities in the global markets are having effect system-wide on all asset classes, Bitcoin being one of them as well. So hope you enjoyed my content. Please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a follow on Twitter as well. It's Big Jonas here. Thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you